Um, I think we're good. We have 5 people and one more on the way from what I understand. So we have a quorum, so we're good to go.
Perfect. I just hit something and took the agenda away. So what's first on the agenda?
We do have November meeting minutes
That's right.
to approve.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from November 14th?
Make a motion that we approve.
Is there a second? I'll second those. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes passed. All right, let me get the all right document. We'll be good to go. Go ahead, Karen.
The next thing was the correspondence. I had put this on the meeting agenda in December, but then we didn't have a quorum anyway. But there's correspondence to the advisory committee. If we want to share that. I know it's not a full meeting, but it was in relation to this subcommittee work.
Are you wanting us to share that correspondence, Karen?
If you have it pulled up, you can go ahead and put it on the screen.
I do. As this is from Robert Lee, if we can just turn it over to him and let him present on this.
I'd be happy to. Appreciate it. The letter was written in regards to the contract for the cost of services study. It is presented by me in the position of the chairman for the Kentucky chapter of the National Solid Waste Management Association. The basic issues that we presented in our letter is the concern of some of the language that was in the draft that was submitted to the committee in regards to addressing what the possible bidders would be looking at and addressing in their bidding process. And in our position, and as we saw the language itself, we thought that it was somewhat biased and not in the best interest of getting a good bidding process available to for this subcommittee to address. I won't read it all. You can see it in front of you, and I think most of you have received the letter itself. But you know, some of the language that was used that we took exception to was, for instance, in the first paragraph, it stated that to minimize adverse effects on public health, safety, and the environment. And then again, it added to that during this in the section of the scope of study. It again said in minimizing the efficiencies of the multi-hauler subscription-based collection on public health, safety, damage to roads, and the environment, as well as not introducing anything to entertain comments on the fact of customer service and the choice that has our subscription customers has had over the last 40 years in regards to what the public sector has given to the community for choice of services, as well as choice of companies to service their account. The language it has not been identified in regards to being true and factual, and we just simply consider that it is adverse to a good opportunity to get some good bidders and some consultants in order to work on the process, and we anticipate that that language should be omitted from the draft itself before it goes out.
Okay. Um, what I would think is the way that we have went about this, and we definitely look at the word, is we're trying to follow what was approved in the 5-year solid waste management plan and do that. The plan, which, as you guys know, with the extensive discussion in public comment before it was public comment. If we move away from the what is in that plan, then we have to make changes through the 109 board itself before we can really take on anything else. I'm not saying that we couldn't do other things, but we got to remember that the 5-year plan is what's guiding our actions here. And any changes to that would have to go through the board and potentially through a public comment period, public notice and comment period, and then potentially another hearing. So while I would certainly encourage us to take a look at the wording that's in the RFP draft, and that's just what it is, a draft, we need to make sure that we're doing what is in the 5-year solid waste management plan. That's my concern about doing things other than that. We have to follow what the plan is giving us.
If I may, I'm not addressing the fact that the action plan is in the 5-year plan. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at the actual verbiage that is in the 5-year plan, and in none of that verbiage under the collection systems implementation schedule is there any kind of bias opinions in regards to which way to go. It does not have any kind of language in regards to minimize adverse effects on public health, safety, and environment in any of the categories that's represented by the plan itself. So it's not a situation of trying to eliminate any of the language or any of the activities in the 5-year plan. It's a issue in regards to being biased and to trying to direct bidders in a certain direction that is not appropriate in this process.
I understand what you're saying. If the draft is not doing what the 5-year plan says and it's bringing in biases, then we need to address those. We need to do what's in the plan, and this was drafted. It is just that, a draft, and I am more than happy to take care of the issues that we find and make sure that we're good with following the 5-year plan.
If you don't mind, I would like to hear maybe some members of the subcommittee to address the issue and determine if the letter can be substantiated and needs to be that the actual draft of the bidding process should be changed.
Does anybody have any comments?
Can I make a suggestion? Can we pull up the draft, which is sort of right here, and we can go through the language, and where there's objection, we can take and compare it to to the 5-year plan and see if the draft is incorrect, we should change it. If the draft is like what's in the 5-year plan, we probably shouldn't change it unless we have that direction from the 109 board.
That works, Pete.
Okay, I'm going to try to put these things side by side.
Yep, I'm trying to look at them here.
Okay, everybody see this cursor that I have on the screen?
Yes, sir.
We're going to look at this part of the proposal right here. Louisville Metro Waste Management District Waste Authority, Tuala Louisville Metro, with the mission to develop and implement strategies, policies, programs that will meet or exceed the 5-year solid waste management plan, create an awareness and commitment, create an awareness and commitment to waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and minimize the adverse effects of public health safety on the environment while providing an efficient, cost-effective solid waste and recycling collection system for the current and future residents of Jefferson County. That is the exact language from the mission of the Waste Management District. We have been putting that on our RFPs. But it is word for word the mission of the Waste Management District. Is there objection to that language?
Pete, I would ask the question in regards to, the whole issue in regards to trusted set of facts. If in fact the issue in minimizing adverse effects on the public health, safety, and environment while providing an efficient and cost-effective solid waste and recycling collection system, give us an idea of what adverse effects that the current system has on the environment, on safety issues, and the other things that are related in the study.
Well, I don't believe that the document, the mission statement, is necessarily in conflict with getting a set of facts. The mission statement is what we're supposed to be about. And that's the first part of the draft is we tell them who we are and what our mission is. And I do think that, when this was drafted, it is the waste district's job to do what our mission statement says. In relation to how it pertains to this RFP and what we're trying to do in the RFP, I don't necessarily believe that there's a conflict. Because we're trying to get a trusted set of facts, it is us actually doing our job in the mission of the waste district. I'm trying to get a trusted set of facts so that we can fulfill our mission. I don't know how we can pull out our mission statement. I don't think that it's in conflict with what we're proposing. Now, I'm not suggesting that one way or another that this system is the current system has a bad effect on public health and safety in the environment. I don't know that it does. I don't know that it doesn't. I don't think that it does. But getting a trusted set of facts doesn't. The mission statement's not saying that it is. There's a problem with what we're doing. It's just our job as a board. I'm probably stumbling all over my words trying to understand. Yeah, I apologize.
As it is part of the mission statement, I understand your position and understand that it would be fairly difficult in order to change that particular piece of the bidding process. But I still take exception to some of the other language that's in the scope of the study that I discussed earlier.
Okay. Can we take the next part, background? Does anybody have any concerns about that? Basically, what we're doing in here, giving a background about our area, which I think when we did our capture rate study, this is something that we had talked about as we really need to put that into all of our RFPs because it describes us. And then stating here to understand the current system and its strengths and weaknesses, vendors should reference this plan, the current 5-year plan, which we all worked on. And then the previous study that was done in 2018. It's just giving them background information on Jefferson County. So is there any objection to any of that language?
I don't have any objection to that.
Okay. So in the scope, the first part, determine if changing from a multi-hauler subscription-based collection system to a single contracted, well, everybody can read it. I don't need to be reading it, but any objection to the first bullet point?
I don't
Is
have any issues with that.
Is there an objection to the second bullet point, knowing that it's basically trying to follow exactly what's in the 5-year solid waste management plan?
Yeah, that's exactly the one that I have objected to in regards to the verbiage that states in minimizing the inefficiencies of the multi-hauler subscription-based collection on public health, safety, damage to roads and the environment. I do take exception to that totally. There's you would have in that, if to do use this position, you would have to basically determine where the information that you have that the statement is true. And I don't think that you have either proven it or nor has it's been addressed in any discussions that have been made.
Is that the section? I just want to make sure that I'm seeing this where you're the exact language that you have issues with. The yellow highlighted.
I'm making sure, hold on.
Okay.
Yes, that's a section.
Okay. So let's see if we just remove that. Determine to the extent possible the potential community benefits and detriments of creating a single hauler contracting system. Contracted collection zones for single.
Hey, Pete,
If we stopped it right there. Yes.
yeah, you can eliminate some of that, or you put in there and minimizing the inefficiencies, in parentheses, if they exist, of the multi-hauler subscription. I think Bob's argument is, are we sure there's inefficiencies or not? This is saying that there is, but at what level are they, or if there are any? It's making an assumption that there is an inefficiency. Bob,
Okay,
did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so. So we got two options. One is to cut it off there. Is that enough information for someone to be doing it? Or it is to add. Say it again, if
They exist.
they exist. Does this address your concerns? If we added this,
If there is a solution, Pete, I would say to stop it at the single family residential properties, period, and eliminate the total language that follows that.
okay.
I would agree because it's a leading statement.
Exactly.
I believe that I'm okay with either way. What is the committee's? What's the committee's preference on this?
I make a motion that we stop it after the word properties and put a period there, eliminate the remainder.
Placement windows is in the standard thing. What if we keep a fence tall when they're particular about their home? They don't want this any old window or any old install.
So you got standard for install.
Got somebody's got
Brian, you
to.
can have the best window or door in the world.
I'll second it.
It's gonna fail. So, you know, having jack of all trades installers would be better.
Can somebody make sure that their mute is on? Speaking.
You're in.
Thank you. So we got a motion and a second on it.
I was on mute. Yeah, we got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Sounds like we're gonna have a raise your hand vote.
Yeah.
Pat, just because you're listed twice on the screen here doesn't mean you get two votes.
Oh.
There you go. Okay, I think I had an eye out of Bruce, right?
Yes.
Who else had an eye?
I voted in favor of the change. This is Bruce Burrow.
I have two Bruces. I voted an aye too. So it's three. Anybody else on the aye?
How many do we have
Nay.
today, Karen?
I think there was a nay from Patrick, right?
Yes.
We have 5 members unless Tomata has come on.
So we got 3.
5
So-
members. I counted
so-
4 votes.
Is Kim Martinez on the committee?
I'm not on this committee.
Marie F. Okay. Oh, not on the committee.
Aaron, there's 4 of us then.
We had Pat, Bruce Blue, Bruce Burrow, Matt.
And
And Brian, I guess, technically.
technically
Brian
Brian.
/ Bob. And then I was hoping Tomata would come, but maybe she couldn't.
I actually just hopped on.
Oh.
I'm so sorry I'm late, but I got late coming back from my other meeting, but I'm on now.
So Sameda, just to summarize what we're in the middle of a vote. To summarize, we are on the second bullet point on the screen. There's an objection to the language that's in yellow. And there's a motion right now to cut the sentence off right there and delete everything else. There was a potential to add this to fix that, but that's not the motion. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So the motion right now is to remove the yellow text because it's biased. Right now, there's 3 or 4 voting for or against.
I'm voting, in case there's any question, Pete, I'm voting to keep the original language.
Okay.
So I'm voting against the motion.
Sumeda, do you want to venture a vote?
Yes, please give me a moment to read it, and if anyone else would like to vote in the meantime.
Pete and Karen, it really makes no difference whether she votes yay or nay.
Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure that if she wants to have a vote on record, then she can
Okay.
have that vote on record.
Okay.
Sorry, I think I'll abstain on this one, please, just because it's gonna take me a little while to get into this.
Okay. And we can all remember that this is still a living document. Nothing is solid on it. So, because it's at subcommittee level. So, at this point, I think that the yays carried the motion. And at this time, I will go ahead and pull it from. Okay. So, so the next bullet point provides statistically significant data on existing service levels, cost per household at the zip code level. Vendors should also provide a summary of factors affecting cost of services for each or groups of zip codes. Any issues there? Okay, I have a little bit of a discussion point on this. I'm not sure that zip codes are the way to go. I put that there because that's kind of what we had talked about. Should consider that. So the study says the consulting firm should consider. So it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be by zip code. And I tend to think that maybe we want to build this to where we can let them make a suggestion as to how that it would be better able to break out and for us to understand our services.
I see what you're saying, but we could just add on the zip codes or other designating groups or
I don't know if that works for anybody.
What's on the table? I didn't understand.
I'm getting ready to highlight there's really not a motion on the table, but there was a suggestion to add this, something like this. This is just what I wrote. Anybody opposed to that? Want to change that?
think it's fine. You're just leaving it to where it doesn't have to be necessarily graphed by zip code.
Yeah, and that's really what my concern was. I didn't want to nail the consultants down to do it by zip code because when they get into it, it might not make sense. They're the experienced ones in doing it.
As someone in the industry, I really think it would be difficult to do it by zip code and probably adding just too many different aspects of what goes on in a certain community that isn't relevant as to the total bidding process. It would bring it down to a pretty specific area and community, and there's plenty of changes in each community in regards to what they expect and what they want.
I agree with that, and I had the problem with it originally, and if it's okay, I don't know if anybody has to make a motion to change it because there's really not an objection to it. But everybody want to keep this?
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Sounds like we got an deal. Next bullet point, provide written recommendations for improving service levels and cost per household for garbage, recycling, yard waste collection, bulky waste collection, comparable to other contracted areas based upon the collection data. Any objections there? Okay, vendor would present findings and recommendations to the Waste Management District. We just want them to give us a presentation, not just give us a report. We want the ability to have a back and forth. Any issues with that? Okay. From here, does anybody have any issues with this section in seeking proposals? Anybody wants to read through that? If there's any issues? If we're good there.
Pete,
Yes, sir.
excuse me, but one of the issues that I brought up in our letter was to consider the mention of customer choice in regards to their service provider. And I say this in regards to representing the service provider community, the private sector that has been part of the answers to the solid waste industry in this market for 40, 50 years. And we are very concerned in regards to allowing customers to have the free choice of choosing their service provider and who their customer and who their company is that provides the service. And I think there should be something in the proposal, in the bidding process to reflect what the subscription consumer considers as important to them. And therefore, if in fact free choice and being able to choose their service and service provider is important to them, it should be part of the bidding process or the bidding process for the consultant.
I'm not saying I agree or disagree at this point with that. I'm saying that it's not part of the 5-year solid waste management plan recommendation to do. If that is something that wants to be done, that needs to be done, I think that needs to go to the 109 board. But I think to be clear in doing what the 5-year solid waste management plan says that we do, I don't think that we want to put those in the same thing. My thing with a study is that you give them a set of facts before you ask really what they want to do. And I think that that's what this study does. That's what I would, if I'm going to make a decision on whether I want free choice or I want contracting or whatever I want to do some homework, and I want to see a set of facts before I make a decision on, what I want, if it's free choice or not, or how you want to do it. So I just don't think it belongs in this RFP myself. And if we do add it, I think that we have the potential to go against what the 5-year solid waste management plan is asking us to do. And we would need to go back to the 109 board before we do it.
I totally disagree with your assessment of the whole thing. What we're saying is that for the last 40 or 50 years, that the community has had a opportunity and has shown that they want free choice in regards to who their service provider is. The other side is to either go through a contractual arrangement, or if you want to call it a franchise situation, in which the community does not have a choice in regards to who their service provider is. That is a main issue. It should be a main issue for the constituents in the whole county itself. It is the number one problem issue that we are dealing with here. And to not address the concerns that free enterprise and that free choice is an opportunity that everybody should have would be absolutely against, I think, the whole scope of the bid itself. You're giving them basically one choice, and that's the choice of contracted services. And we shouldn't be doing that. We should be giving them an opportunity to choose their choices, either contracted services or multi-subscription service with choice of customer, choice of company and choice of services.
Well, I don't think that
That's not what this is about, Pete. This is about gathering information. This isn't about putting people on the spot to choose this service provider or that service provider. That's an issue that comes up later. This is gathering information, significant information that hasn't been done before, or at least hasn't been updated recently. We're not trying to shoehorn people into what choice they make in the future.
I would agree with that position, Pat. I don't think that this recommendations or this study makes people lean one way or another. At least that's the goal.
I also
It's
agree
just-
with that.
Pete,
I could
Patrick,
both
I
say the
just
same
totally
thing. It's good timing. When do you ask the question? Do you ask it now, or do you ask it after you have the information?
But my position would be that you're not even giving them a choice. That you're directing it to only one choice, and you're eliminating the choice of free choice and what has been basically the whole public sector issue in regards to being able to identify who they want as their service provider and the services that they represent. Right now, all you're doing is giving them one direction and one idea, and that is, how do you want the county, in order to go forward, as the basic contractor for your subscription services?
Can you show me in here where it says that that's the suggested or that's predetermined that that's where this is going?
I think the whole position in regards to simply putting it out there with this kind of scope of work and what's in the survey itself, that identifies what direction that the administration wants to go.
I think that's a misinterpretation, Bob. My suggestion is that we move on.
The only thing I would say, Pat, is that it's the interpretation of every service provider that has been in the business for 40, 50 years that has basically created this community as far as the services that are provided for their solid waste choices. They have been doing it for 40 to 50 years, and you're looking to me like you're trying to change that whole apparatus and what the community wants.
I don't think that that's necessarily the case. There's a significant portion, the majority of this community that is on contracted services already with a single hauler. They've had that through either the vote of their home rule city or the city of Louisville or through their HOA. People have had that choice, and they chose a contracted service. We just want to take a look and see what it looks like and give this a set of facts to people. So before we move forward with anything, I mean, honestly, this may come out to prove that subscription service is the way to go. And maybe the recommendation, if we go by what you're saying and people want choice, is the recommendation would be that the waste district abolishes any contracted services in the county, if that's the best way to do it. I don't think that we're going one way or another with this thing. We're just gathering facts. We're not asking them or pushing them in any single direction.
Pete, I've got a hard break at 4:00. Again, suggest we move on.
Do we want to kick it down the road a little bit to the full advisory committee and have further discussion about it at that point?
I think that makes sense. We move on to the next one and ask a wider range of group of what they think the intent is. I think both of you agree with asking the choice is at which point do you ask is really the question. Do you ask now? I can argue both ways. It's hard to ask now because I don't know what I'm asking. Do I want a hamburger or steak? Well, what's the cost of my steak? Yeah, I want a choice, but I don't know what my choices are yet.
I would agree with that. So if we can move on.
We need to understand how important choice is to somebody. Do you want to have those options or not? So I think I can argue it both ways.
So the next section is required content of proposal. Are there any issues here? We head over in the scoring proposal. If not, that is basically the entire RFP specifications. I think that honestly, we got through it. We've made some changes. The only disagreement is whether or not something needs to be added to that. So that I think everybody is kind of agreed that we want to take that to the larger group, which ultimately it's got to go anyway. So with that said, this is, unless there's any other discussion about that, this is really the main topic of the day. The only other contracting thing that I have that I'm ready to actually discuss, but a little bit, is it's only to bring up the negotiation of the community host agreement. And everybody knows that is well, I'm not sure everybody knows, but it's an extremely important agreement for the community. It's an agreement that's negotiated between the Waste Management District and the landfill that's within our county. It's a host community agreement. So, been working on trying to take and get a starting document. We had the original documents that was done in 1994, and we've had 4 amendments to that document that changed somewhat here and there. So it's very difficult to piece it all together in a logical manner. So I'm still working on that. So I really just wanted to inform people that that is coming up. And it's more of who wants to be on that committee. But I think that we did this once before and asked people if you are a competitor of the landfill, might be a little bit of a conflict for you to be sitting on that committee. But I think from memory, Bob Schindler has agreed to do it. I think Sarah Lynn has agreed to do it. Sumeda, I don't know if you have the time to do it as a representative from the administration.
I'm happy to.
Okay. And this is not the only time to bring this up, and this is not necessarily the committee, but it's just gauging any interest. Is there anybody else that wants to express some
I'd
interest?
like to do it. Pete,
Okay. Okay, so that we have 4 that have volunteered for it. We'll be bringing this up at other committees to see if we get too many. I'm not real sure what we should limit it for the actual drafting and negotiation before it comes back to the full committee to be approved. Because it's not necessarily, host agreement's not, we're just going to draft something and get some negotiations as part of it. And obviously it's an agreement that has to be approved by the board and likely have to go out to public comment.
Who was the people on the committee again?
Sumeda, she is director of the Office of Sustainability. Bruce Blue has volunteered. Bob Schindler has volunteered, and Sarah Lynn Cunningham volunteered. Sarah Lynn volunteered a long time ago, so I'm not sure if she would still be interested.
Pete, there's one other thing, if you don't mind. There was one other thing that I put in my letter that I want to address and make sure everybody knows. We have asked, as representing the service providers for the last 40, 50 years in regards to solid waste services and so forth, that we be added on the committee for the bidding process that goes forward, that a representative from the chapter in National Waste and Recycling Association chapter be part of the committee that goes forward.
Are we talking about scoring?
Excuse me?
Scoring the submissions?
Yes, we are.
I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing or an unacceptable request. It is not, and I don't believe that it would be a conflict of interest. Of course, the person that is going to be there, if it does become a conflict of interest for them, it'd be their responsibility to state that. Yeah, I mean, as far as the creation of this RFP, the haulers are definitely a part of that right now on this committee. And what goes out is going to be based upon our collective input here. the only thing that'd be different that the haulers would not have any, at this point, they've never been in the scoring process, but we haven't done too many of these. So I don't necessarily have an objection to somebody from the industry being on to review the submissions and to score the submissions.
I would anticipate that the committee would want to have someone that's representing the service providers that has performed the services for the last number of years in order to get their input into who's qualified and who's not.
Yeah, I think so far we've used Bruce Burrow as a person that has scored RFPs for us. I don't see any reason, and I think Bruce is fair and objective. And that's what we need. So I don't necessarily have a problem with it as long as we don't create a conflict of interest. And
I think it makes sense. I
We
know
don't
I was
want-
involved with one of them, and I think it's good to pass through the ranks and make sure everybody has the opportunity.
Yeah, we have, typically they limit the number of people that would score it. I don't know what that limit is. It's done through technology, but we can find out.
Yeah, I'm not for sure what Bruce was saying, but I think what he was applying would be that we would probably want to put that to the members of the chapter in order to determine if we do have the opportunity, who that might be, Pete.
That's fine with me. As long as we're not creating a conflict of interest, which it would be pretty much flagged through the purchasing process and purchasing law. So we pretty much have that purchasing stays on our toes. And I think Sandra is another person that has scored these. And I think her background as an attorney in doing some contracts is definitely another person that is good for scoring and reviewing. She has some technology issues, but I still think her input's important. Anyway, I think we're at 3:57. I believe we've had some good discussion. And at this point, Matt, I would turn the meeting to you and we can make a motion to adjourn. You're on mute, Matt.
Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Good
all.
day.
Thank you.
Karen and the committee.
Pat, what did you say?
I just said thank you and Karen and committee.
Cool. Y'all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Mhm.